reigning now, the King eternal. Yes, we know the victory. If there were no God, there would be no sunshine, there would be no rain to refresh the earth, there would be no Jews to display their value, there would be no thought of enduring word. If there were no God, there'd be no creation, there would be no life, there'd be no birth, no surpassing joy, nothing in existence. If there were no God, all would be dead. But we know that God is with us, and we know His majesty reigning now, the King eternal. Yes, we know the victory. Yes, we know that God is with us, and we know His majesty reigning now, the King eternal. Yes, we know. Yes, we know. Yes, we know the victory. Victory. Yes, we know the victory.
In heavenly armor we'll enter the land. The battle belongs to the Lord. No weapon that's fashioned against us will stand. The battle belongs to the Lord. And we sing glory, honor, power and strength to the Lord. We sing glory, honor, power and strength to the Lord. When the power of darkness comes in like a flood, the battle belongs to the Lord. He's raised up a standard, the power of His blood. The battle belongs to the Lord, and we sing glory, honor, power and strength to the Lord. We sing glory, honor, power and strength to the Lord. When your enemy presses in hard, do not fear. The battle belongs to the Lord. Take courage, my friend, your redemption is near. The battle belongs to the Lord, and we sing glory, honor, power and strength to the Lord. We sing glory, honor, power and strength to the Lord. And we sing glory, honor, power and strength to the Lord. We sing glory.
So now you just do the squares.
All right, why don't we go ahead and get started? So we're going to have our meeting this Sunday after church. Not this Sunday, next Sunday after services. We're going to have our church planning session, and with that, the financial statement will be presented. You can ask questions. It's going to be, one is not going to dominate the other. So what I mean by that, the whole meeting is not going to be consumed with questions about the financial statement, and the whole meeting will not be consumed by just planning. So it'll be equal time for both. If you've been hearing me regularly, I've been asking, come with ideas, come with thoughts. And if you have a thought or an idea for a ministry or something we could be doing or something we could be doing a little bit differently, please come and share it with us so that we can kick that around and say, okay, we need to kind of cut back here, we need to move forward here, and we can make some adjustments or we can add something new. So come with ideas. Understand though, when you do come with ideas and you come with constructive ideas, we're here to encourage each other. Not here to say this is, you get my drift. So, constructive. So in the mornings, you've noticed we've been sending cars different places. If you haven't noticed that or if you weren't aware of it and you see me straggling in, it's because starting at around 6 a.m., I'm trying to make sure cars are scheduled to go different places, and sometimes people change their schedules. They wake up sick, they're not coming, or they wake up and they decide to come. And so I apologize. I'm doing the very best that I can. If someone wants to discuss with me and have a better thought on how we do this, I'm all open to hearing it. So Mountainside was very gracious enough to lend us their van for the weekend. So went over there yesterday, picked up the van. Haskell's doing a route, and Haskell's health is not always the best, but he likes doing things. He likes to be involved, and he likes picking people up. So he was the first one that I called, and he volunteered to do it. He had a little bit of trouble just getting into the van this morning, so I had to get down here and help him out and do that. So just tell him thank you, because it helps us out. You know, we sent a van on a route this morning picking people up. And so we're doing the best that we can. That means people are coming, people want to be here. They're coming from different places, and they're people that we've never met before. And we're getting to know for the first time. So, having said that, we need, coming this year, we're going to need lots of help from lots of different people. So if there's a way that you think you can help or you can contribute, let me know. Let me know. Because a lot of it is just falling on a few of us, and we're going to keep going, but more help would be needed. On that note, David is home. David got home. Vicki has someone to sit with him on Monday, but she would like guys, I'm talking to guys, if we can make a schedule and sit with him from Tuesday to Friday, because Vicki's got to go to work. So if you can, get with me. Someone give me that look before service to remind me, because I will forget, so that we can talk about it before worship. But we need to be able to sit with David and be with David. It's going to be from, I think Vicki said, from about 8 to about 4:30. Doesn't mean you have to sit the whole day. We'll each chop it up in shifts. So one of us can take the morning, one of us can take the afternoon, or flip-flop, or whatever we need to do, just to make sure. And by the end of the week, he may not need someone to sit with him. Vicki just wants to feel safe by someone being there to help him get up right now, and if he needs to get around. So, guys, keep that in mind. All right. Anybody have a prayer request? Yeah, how is he doing? Okay. Still?
He doesn't heal very easily, kind of like right now.
So if you didn't hear that, Alvin and Jennifer have a friend. He's in a coma.
Yes.
Do they know what happened to him?
Just several problems. But I think the one that put him in the coma was pneumonia.
So he's got pneumonia compounded by a variety of things. He's been in the hospital for over a month now, huh?
Since November 28th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's been in the coma since.
And he's what? He's young, isn't he?
Early 30s.
Early 30s.
He's 32.
So keep Gilbert in your prayers, and Jennifer's mom. Anything else? As you can,
I was having a procedure done on Wednesday.
that's right. Alvin's having a procedure done on Wednesday?
Yes.
On Wednesday. So be praying for Alvin. Praying for Alvin. Anything else? All right, if not, let's pray. Father, thank you for this morning. We thank you for this day. We thank you for everyone here. We thank you for the gift and the breath to wake up and to be strengthened this morning, to be here. We pray for the folks who are still on the way. Father, we're blessed just by having this place to come and to worship and to be in. We pray and continue to pray for our brother David, who's recovering, and for Vicki, who's taking care of him, and also for Gilbert and the family as they make decisions about what to do for our brother Alvin's procedure coming up on Wednesday. Father, we know that you are always involved in situations in our life. We just pray that your hand of just healing and mercy and grace cover all of them. We thank you just for being able to gather here. Father, we pray that as we open our mouths and we lift our voices, that it is glorifying to you as we learn, as we listen, and as we worship. Father, we thank you. We love you. We ask all this in Christ's name. Amen. There is a new page to your notes. If you don't have it, I think Alvin has some. When Haskell pulls up with the van, he's going to need help to get out. So there's a little step stool underneath that chair. He'll need that to get out. And then we'll need to park the van around the back. Everybody have the new notes? It's 58, 59?
Yes.
All right. So we went through, let me back up. We're going through the thread. This is the thread. So this is an overview of the Bible itself, but the thread is Jesus Christ who runs through everything. So if we look at Scripture through the lens of Christ, it gives us a perspective of Scripture that we should have. Because that's who the main theme is. The Bible's talking about Jesus from beginning to end. So we've reached the book of Deuteronomy. We've talked about chapter 1. Who remembers a little bit about what we talked about in chapter 1?
The disobedience of Israel.
Say again?
The disobedience of Israel.
The disobedience of Israel. So God brings them out of Egypt, and He takes them to the precipice of the promised land. And we talked about the spies at length. We talked about how they came back. They decided that, okay, we can't do this. Most of them, not all of them. And then Moses says, okay, God says you're all going to die in the wilderness. They say, hey, wait, I'm sorry. They then charge in ahead without God's permission. After He told them not to, they get defeated. He says they went around like a swarm. They got swatted. They come back. So now we're here in chapter 2. This is where we are. So if you have your notes, I'm going to kind of go off your notes so that we can move through chapters 2 and chapter 3 today. Chapter 2 and chapter 3 today. So chapter 2 and 3, they pick up where chapter 1 kind of leaves off. So where they left Kadesh Barnea, that was the most significant spot. They rebelled against the Lord. It was just a meeting like any of our church meetings or leadership meetings. They made their vote. They chose not to go. They got together. They heard what was said. They said, majority said we're not going. Congregation didn't go. And that's when God said, okay, this is what you're going to receive for that. This is your consequence of your choices for that. Changed their mind. They went out, came back. We talked about how they had their reasons. And they had reasons. Well, what were some of their reasons? Because we're going to talk about that today as we get in further into chapters 2 and 3.
It was the land of giants.
Land of giants. So land of giants, and they had what kind of cities?
Fortified.
Fortified cities. Remember that. They had high walls, right? That's a fortified city. Keep that in mind. So they looked at these and said, we can't do this because of these reasons. So now we get into chapter 2, and chapter 2 is, God is telling them, look, you're going to follow me, you need to do what I say, but this particular land, you're not going to have, and you're not going to take. Why is that? Who's read chapter 2 recently? not in general in your life, because all the hands will probably go up. But this past week. All right, why don't we go ahead and read chapter 2? We'll start in verse 1. If somebody wants to take it at verse 1 and go, and then someone can pick up after that. If you run into a name that you really just can't pronounce, just do your best. Nobody's going to make fun of you about it. Make something up if you need to that's close. Okay? And just keep reading. Janice?
Then we turned and set out for the wilderness by the way of the Red Sea, as the Lord spoke to me, and circled Mount Seir for many days. And the Lord spoke to me, saying, You have circled this mountain long enough, now turn north, and command the people, saying, You will pass through the territory of your brothers, the sons of Esau, who live in Seir, and they will be afraid of you. So be very careful. Do not provoke them, for I will not give you any of their land, even as little as a footstep, because I have given Mount Seir to Esau as a possession. You shall buy food from them with money, so that you may eat, and you shall also purchase water from them with money, so that you may drink. For the Lord your God has blessed you in all that you have done. He has known your wanderings through this great wilderness. These 40 years the Lord your God has been with you. You have not lacked a thing. So we passed beyond our brothers, the sons of Esau, who live in Seir, away from the Arabah road, away from Elah, and from and returned and passed through by the way of the wilderness of Moab. Then the Lord said to me, do not harass Moab, nor provoke them to war, for I will not give you any of their land as a possession, because I have given Ar to the sons of Lot as a possession. The Ammon lived there formerly, and a people as great, numerous, and tall as the Anakim.
That was good. That was great. If someone wants to pick up from there, verse 11.
Like the Anakites, they too were considered Rephaites, but the Moabites called them Emites. Horites used to live in Seir, but the descendants of Esau drove them out. They destroyed the Horites from before them and settled in their place, just as Israel did in the land the Lord gave them as their possession. And the Lord said, now get up and cross the Zered Valley. So we crossed the valley. 38 years passed from the time we left Kadesh Barnea until we crossed the Zered Valley. By then, that entire generation of fighting men had perished from the camp, as the Lord had sworn to them. The Lord's hand was against them until he had completely eliminated them from the camp. Now when the last of these fighting men among the people had died, the Lord said to me, today you are to pass by the region of Moab at Ar. When you come to the Ammonites, do not harass them or provoke them to war, for I will not give you possession of any land belonging to the Ammonites. I have given it as possession to the descendants of Lot. That too was considered a land of the Rephaites who used to live there. But the Ammonites called them Zamzumites. They were a people strong and numerous, and as to all the Anakites, the Lord destroyed them from before the Ammonites, who drove them out and settled in their place. The Lord had done the same for the descendants of Esau who lived in Seir, when he destroyed the Horites from before them. They drove them out and have lived in their place to this day. And as for the Abites, who lived in villages as far as Gaza, the Kaphorites, coming out from Kaphor, destroyed them and settled in their place.
Okay, let's stop right there before we go to the rest of the chapter. So, Moses is telling this narrative, and he starts out with, we come to where they were supposed to enter the promised land. They decided they weren't going to do it. They went back, they attacked, it didn't work out. You notice how this is a fast forward now?
Yeah.
So if you caught that, now it's in chapter 2, as he's speaking, he's kind of gone from that incident, and that was 38 years ago. So he's fast forward into chapter 2, and he's telling them, look, you can travel through this land, if they let you travel through this land, but you don't take any of it. You don't even try and take any of it. And if you do, you're not going to win. You're not going to take it. Why is that? Yes. Yes. So that land was already promised, was given to another people for their possession, and it was the descendants of who? Lot and Esau, right? So their descendants, he says, I've already given them this land. This is why it's not yours. So if you try and take it, you're not going to get it. I'm not with you. You just keep going. And he talks about the people who lived there before. What do those names mean to you? Not a thing. Not a thing. Not a trick question. Not a thing. But he's making a distinction. He's calling out these names because these groups of people, when he references these names, he's saying, if you recognize these names, and they will, these groups of people were they were big. They were like giants. They were big, fighting people. They were not small. And they were defeated. Did you notice that? They're not there anymore. Keep that in your mind, because it's going to be important. And he mentions it a couple of times. he mentions these people that used to occupy the land, but they're not there anymore. They've been displaced by these descendants. Okay? I'm not asking you to get into their genealogy. I'm just asking you to remember that point because it's important as we keep moving forward. All right, verse 24. If someone would like to pick up at verse 24.
Rise up, set out on the journey, and go over the valley of the Arnon. Behold, I have given into your hand Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land. Begin to take possession and contend with him in battle. This day I will begin to put the dread and fear of you on the peoples who are under the whole heaven, who shall hear the report of you, and shall tremble and be in anguish because of you. So I sent messengers from the wilderness of Kedemoth to Sihon the king of Heshbon with words of peace, saying, Let me pass through your land. I will go only by the road. I will turn aside neither to the right nor to the left. You shall sell me food for money, that I may eat, and give me water for money, that I may drink. Only let me pass through on foot, as the sons of Esau who live in Seir, and the Moabites who live in Har did for me, until I go over the Jordan into the land that the Lord our God is giving to us. But Sihon the king of Heshbon would not let us pass by him, for the Lord your God hardened his spirit and made his heart obstinate, that he might give him into your hand, as he is this day. And the Lord said to me, Behold, I have begun to give Sihon and his land over to you. Begin to take possession, that you may occupy his land. Then Sihon came out against us, he and all his people, to battle at Jahaz. And the Lord our God gave him over to us, and we defeated him and his sons and all his people. And we captured all his cities at that time and devoted to destruction every city, men, women, and children. We left no survivors. Only the livestock we took as spoil for ourselves, with the plunder of the cities that we captured. From Aurora, which is on the edge of the valley of Arnon, and from the city that is in the valley, as far as Gilead, there was not a city too high for us. The Lord our God gave all into our hands. Only to the land of the sons of Ammon did you not draw near, that is, to all the banks of the river Jabbok, and the cities of the hill country, whatever the Lord our God had forbidden us.
Thank you. Let's pick up in chapter 3 and keep moving forward. Someone like to pick up at verse 1, chapter 3.
You know what page?
So we're in Deuteronomy chapter 3 and verse 1.
Then we turned and went up the way to Bashan, and Og, the king of Bashan, came out against us, he and all his people, to battle at Edrei. But the Lord said to me, Do not fear him, for I have given him and all his people and his land into your hand. And you shall do to him as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived at Heshbon. So the Lord our God gave unto our hand Og also, the king of Bashan, and all his people, and we struck him down until he had no survivor left. And we took all his cities at that time. There was not a city that we did not take from them, 60 cities, the whole region of Argob, the kingdom of Og in Bashan. All these cities were fortified with high walls, gates, and bars, besides very many unwalled villages. And we devoted them to destruction, as we did to Sihon, the king of Heshbon, devoting to destruction every city, men, women, and children. But all the livestock and the spoil of the cities we took as our plunder. So we took the land at that time out of the hand of the two kings of the Amorites, who were beyond the Jordan, from the valley of the Arnon to Mount Hermon. The Sidonians call Hermon Sirion, while the Amorites call it Senir. All the cities of the tableland, and all Gilead, and all Bashan, as far as Salakah and Edrei, cities of the kingdom of Og in Bashan. For only Og, the king of Bashan, was left of the remnant of the Rephaim. Behold, his bed was a bed of iron. Is it not in Rabbah of the Amorites? 9 cubits was its length, and 4 cubits its breadth, according to the common cubit.
Verse 12. If someone would like to pick up chapter 3, verse 12.
the land that we took over at that time, I gave the Reubenites and the Gadites the territory north of Aror by the Arnon Gorge, including half the hill country of Gilead, together with its towns. The rest of Gilead and also of Bashan, the kingdom of Og, I gave them to the half tribe of Manasseh. The whole region of Argob in Bashan used to be known as the land of the Rephites. There, a descendant of Manasseh, took the whole region of Argob as far as the border of the Geshurites and the Maccathites. It was named after him, so that to this day Bashan called Habon Jair, and I gave Gilead to Machir. But to the Reubenites and the Gadites I gave the territory extending from Gilead down to Arnon Gorge, the middle of the gorge being the border, and out to the Jabbok River, which is the border of the Ammonites. Its western border was the Jordan and the Arbar from Kinnereth to the sea of the Arabah, the salt sea below the slopes of Pisgah. I commanded you at that time, the Lord your God has given you this land to take possession of it. But all your able-bodied men armed for battle must cross over ahead of your brother Israelites. However, your wives, your children, and your livestock, I know you have much livestock, may stay in the towns I have given you, until the Lord gives rest to your brothers as he has to you, and they too have taken over the land that the Lord your God is giving them across the Jordan. After that, each of you may go to the possession I have given you. At that time I commanded Joshua, you have seen with your own eyes all the Lord your God has done to these two kings. The Lord will do the same to all kingdoms over there where you are going. Do not be afraid of them. The Lord your God himself will fight for you. At that time I pleaded with the Lord, O sovereign Lord, you have begun to show your servant your greatness and your strong hand. For what God is there in heaven or on earth can do the deeds and mighty works you do? Let me go over and see the good land beyond the Jordan, that fine hill country in Lebanon. But because of you, the Lord was angry with me and would not listen to me. That is enough, the Lord said. Do not speak to me anymore about this matter. Go up to the top of Pisgah and look west and north and south and east. Look at the land with your own eyes, since you are not going to cross this Jordan, but commission Joshua and encourage and strengthen him, for he will lead this people across and will cause them to inherit the land that you will see. So we stayed in the valley near Beth Peor.
Okay, so chapter 2, we have, don't go into this land. This land is not yours. We move a little bit forward, and then he says, okay, this land, this is what you're going to conquer and take. There's a distinction being made here. What's the difference between the lands they do take? The reaction from the people who are in it.
They're fearful. They're fearful.
They're fearful. They're not only fearful when they say, hey, can we pass through this land? Their response is, the two kings' response is what?
Go right ahead.
No, that was the first thing.
Okay.
The second part.
No way.
No. And then those two kings came out with their armies, right? You have King Og and King Sihon. They come out with their armies to meet them. So they say, hey, we just want to pass through the land. God knows that's not going to happen. But they ask. The kings say no. They meet them with their armies, and both of the armies are totally destroyed. They're totally destroyed. And then the children of Israel take possession of their territory and all of their cities. So they politely move in and ask the folks, it's time for you to go. We will give you 30 days notice to pack up your belongings and go. Like when the bank comes and knocks on your door for foreclosure, you know. As hard as that may be, at least you have 30 days. What happens to the people that are in those lands?
They didn't get noticed.
They didn't get a notice. What they get?
Horses, sword.
They got the sword. But it was only the adults.
No.
No, it was everyone.
Everything.
Everyone, everything got the sword. They wiped out the people. And then what Moses does, he starts setting up a few of the tribes in these lands. Tells the rest, don't worry, you're going to get yours when you cross over the Jordan. You're going to get the land that's been promised to you when you cross over the Jordan. He makes a distinction here. If you picked up on it, at verse 8 going down through verse 11, he talks about the king's bed. This is a big bed. Okay? So, 13 and a half feet long and 6 feet wide.
Not a California king either.
No, I was going to say that. That's bigger than your California king. That's bigger than your European king. It's bigger than both of those beds. And it's made of what?
Iron.
Just because he's fancy, right?
Weight.
It's because of how much he weighs. It's because of how big he is. So, God is spelling this out for us. He's making distinctions and he's bringing our attention to how large these people are. They're not small folks. They're not small folks. So, we fast forward a little bit now, and Moses says, God, I really want to see the land. I really want to see the land. Can I just go and see it? It's like your child, please, I just want one more piece of candy. Because Moses is God's child. And so Moses is saying, can I go see the land? And God's response is what? Enough. It's not just, in the language that's written, it's not just our casual no. It's enough. No more. You ever reach that point with one of your children or somebody else's child and you're like, enough? That's what God is telling Moses. Stop. Enough. I don't want to hear any more about it. You are not going. And then he tells them, but I'll bring you to the mountaintop. I will bring you to the mountaintop so that you can see, north, south, you can see the land. And at least you get to see it. At least you get to see it. And then it dives into, and Joshua is going to succeed you. That's what's going to happen. Moses, to me it would seem, he's totally willing to accept God's judgment, but he does have a response for the people. Did you hear it? Because of you, I don't get to go and enter into the land. That's what Moses says. So here, this is chapters 2 and chapters 3. So, in all of this, what strikes your mind from chapters 1, reading that, understanding why they didn't enter into the promised land, and then now leading into chapters 2 and chapters 3? What strikes you? So,
The process.
the process. So, and we start out in chapter 1, it's the beginning of their journey. We get to chapters 2, it's 38 years later. And all those who said we can't do it have died. The fighting men, did you notice that?
Yes.
The fighting men. The author is very specific in his language when he says that. The fighting men have died. Because what the fighting men tried to do was go up into the land and fight and do it on their own. We discussed that last week. Their initial reasoning was, we can't do this because the walls are too high and the people are too big. Remember that?
Yep.
And now in chapters 2 and chapters 3, he makes a very distinct point of saying, yeah, these are big people. Guess what? They're not there anymore. Those people were displaced. Look at verse 36 in chapter 2. Therefore, there was no city that was inaccessible to us. No city. Okay? There was no city that was inaccessible to us from Ar on the rim of Arnon Valley, along with the city of the valley, even as far as Gilead. The Lord our God gave everything to us. There's no city, no wall too high, no people too big. There's no city that we didn't have access to, which to plainly say is that they couldn't conquer. That's what he's saying right there. Where before, their reasoning was the cities are too fortified, they're too big, they're too great. Now, 38 years later, God's leading them, which he was doing 38 years before. They just chose not to follow. And those cities they thought that were too big, too strong, the walls too high, and the people too giants, guess what happened to them? They got destroyed. Because now God is leading a people that didn't say we can't do it. That didn't say we can't do it. And those who said we can't do it, they died in the wilderness. So he cultivated for himself a new generation of people. A new generation of people. That when he said go, what did they do? They went.
Without question.
Without question.
Without pause.
And it was still the same big cities, right?
Yeah.
It was still the same big cities. It was still, remember, this king who they killed, he was a big guy. It's huge. So it's still the same big cities, the same big walls, the same big people that it was 38 years ago. And look what God does. Except this time, he has a people that says, I'm going to go where you go. I'm going to go where you go. And look what happens. They're victorious. They're victorious. So, it's easy within these 3 chapters to kind of gloss over that and miss that point. But with all those little details, God is making a point. God is making that point. Now imagine, had they had just followed that generation, just would have followed through, where they would be. But they don't get to be there. It's the second generation that gets to be there. Did God just wipe out the people and said, okay, I'm done with you because you didn't listen to me the first time? No. No. He gave the people, a nation as a whole, a second chance to the second generation.
It's just the fighting men.
The fighting men, yeah. So you have, sir.
Don't forget, though, he did tell Moses that I'm willing to wipe them all out and start over with you.
Yeah, at one point he did.
At one point he did.
So it should give you insight to the personality of God. Now, I mean, God is long-suffering, that none should perish, but all should come to the saving grace of Jesus Christ. So don't mistake it that God is patient. I like long-suffering because he suffers a long time with us. I've had people in my life that have suffered a long time with me.
Hallelujah.
There you go. But I guarantee you, you have people in your life that have suffered a long time with you. So God suffers long. He suffered long. He's patient with these people. But we should make no mistake. God is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. The same yesterday, today, and forever. He's the same. He doesn't change with time or the passing of seasons. So the personality you see in God here is the still same personality that he has today. So it should speak to us when God says go.
Go.
Thank you. When God says go, go. We have a tendency to see the reasons of why we can't do something and what can hold us back. And to us, they're logical. They're logical. But if God is leading the way, just follow it. Just follow it. All right. So with that, we will pick up in chapter 4. Chapter 4, the writer, Moses, gets into ordinances and statutes and things of that nature, and we'll keep moving forward on that. So that's a good breaking point for us. So Lord willing, next week we'll get in chapter 4. We'll begin discussing that. Now we will prepare for worship.